welcome to another episode of the Chaos Chronicles.
Navigating the randomness.
I'm Jess.
I'm Connie.
And today we are hopping back into Eclipse.
We will be doing chapters 7 and 8. But before we get too deep into things, just a reminder, you can find us at our various social medias, which are linked below. I am not going to go over all of the absolute dumpster fire garbage that was chapters 5 and 6. You can go watch those episodes, but let me just tell you, Edward is awful. Truly awful. He has basically imprisoned Bella. And for those that are like, ooh, sounds sexy. It's not. It's not that type of prison. It is awful. And right now, Edward could get hit with a freaking missile, and neither of us would shed tears.
Nope.
But I should tell this part. We are at what's about to be a very interesting conversation where Rosalie has come in to Edward's room where Bella is staying, where Edward has imprisoned her. Again, not in that way. Get your mind out together. But we're about to hear Rosalie's story. So I'm very excited for this chapter.
Yes.
All right. Shall we go?
Yeah. So chapter 7 is titled Unhappy Endings.
There is a little bit of a trigger warning in here for people who don't know Rosalie's story. It is a trigger warning for sexual assault.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not explicitly said, but it ends at the part that your mind goes there.
Yep. Sorry, not to spoil anything, but
yeah,
you've been warned.
Yeah. So unhappy ending. Bella invited Rosalie in. After assuring Rosalie that she didn't wake Bella, she asked if they could talk. It's rare that Edward truly leaves Bella alone, so she wanted to take this opportunity. She didn't want to hurt Bella's feelings, though. Bella assures her that her feelings are great. Rosalie wants to tell her why she believes Bella should stay human and why she would if she were Bella. She begins to tell her story. Rosalie was alive in a simpler place, 1933. She was 18 years old and her life was perfect. Her family wasn't really affected by the Great Depression at all. Her mother cared for the household. Her parents weren't fully satisfied and aspired to climb the social ladder. Rosalie was very pretty and always watched by men. She knew what she wanted out of life. She wanted to be loved, have a huge flowery wedding with everyone in town attending, her father walking her down the aisle. She wanted to be admired. She wanted a big house with elegant furnishings, have a house cleaner, and a modern kitchen with a cook. She was materialistic, young and shallow. It was a much different time, and at 18 she was ready for everything, a husband, a house, and a little baby. The king acquired her father's bank. One day, her father forgot his lunch. Rosalie brought it to him, and that's when King's son saw her for the first time. Rosalie didn't notice him, but he started sending her roses every night. He was handsome, and they began courting. Her parents approved, and Royce seemed to be everything she dreamed of. They were engaged in under 2 months. One night, Rosalie was walking home at night. She had spent the day with her friend Vera, who had it all in Rosalie's eyes. A husband who loves her and a little boy. Rosalie's wedding now was only a week away at this point. She was worrying about the weather. It was so cold, and she didn't want to have to move the wedding inside. She was close to home, and then a group of drunk men were laughing. Suddenly, Royce yelled her name and introduced his group to her. Rosalie hadn't seen him drink before. Royce's friend came up from Georgia. Royce tells him that she's lovely. John says it's hard to tell. They all laughed, and Royce took her jacket from her, tore her pinned hat off, which was painful, and they seemed to enjoy her being in pain.
Didn't he say something like it's hard to tell with all those clothes on or something?
Yeah, he did. I took it out. It was really gross.
No, I remember reading this as a kid and being disgusted at it.
You know what I was picturing as I was reading this? Our Black Dahlia case. That's exactly, and obviously no one knows what happened to her, but That is what I was picturing.
There's definitely some parallels.
Same time period, and that might be why, but like,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just like the materialistic girl, like thought she was in with a good guy, and tale as old as time.
yeah, Rosalie didn't say exactly what happened, but they left her in the street. They thought that she was dead. The group left and teased Royce that he would have to find a new bride.
And for those who are not picking up, they assaulted her and they beat her, and she was left like bloody and lying in the streets and basically bleeding out and dying.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't say any of that in the book. I'm assuming that's where the movie comes in. But
Movie,
Rosalie cut it off really abruptly.
yep. Movie and some of like the back stuff I've heard from
Ah,
other creators who have like all the other history. So
gotcha.
yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Rosalie waited to die, but that is when Carlisle came across her. He worked on her and tried to save her life. Rosalie recalled that she didn't like Dr. Cullen, his wife, or her brother, Edward, because they were more beautiful than she was. And yes, back then they were referring to Edward as being Esme's brother. Rosalie,
Really
yeah,
weird.
I know. I don't know when the changeover happened, but she did point that out back then.
Oh, I do remember in Midnight Sun, Edward making a comment where like he had to really push Esme and Carlisle together because like they both liked each other and Edward knew it, but like neither of them were doing anything
Oh,
because like
I could
Carlisle.
see that though.
Yeah. Well, I think it was twofold. I think Carlisle had met Esme when she was like a little girl originally,
Oh,
so like there was that like hang
oh,
up,
yeah, I could see
and then he
that.
didn't meet her again until years later when he found her and she was dying.
Yeah. Rosalie began to slip away and was now grateful that the pain was going away. Then suddenly there was more pain. The fire started in her extremities and she begged for death. Carlisle sat with her, apologized, and promised that it would all end. He told her what he was and what she would become, and he would apologize every time she screamed. Edward questioned Carlisle. What was he thinking? Carlisle couldn't just let her die. It was too horrible, and he couldn't leave her. Edward, sounding dismissive, said that he knows. Esme was reassuring to Carlisle. Edward reminds Carlisle that people die all the time. She's just more recognizable. The king will put out a huge search for her. Rosalie was able to concentrate on them more, meaning that she was probably getting stronger. She knew her life was over and she couldn't go back. She could go her own way, but couldn't stand the thought of being alone. Rosalie looked in the mirror, and despite the eyes, she was the most beautiful thing, but she started to blame her beauty for what happened to her. If she looked normal, she could have been allowed to marry someone who loved her and had babies. That's all she ever wanted. Her record is almost as clean as Carlisle. She has never tasted human blood. But then she did murder 5 humans, if you can call them that. She was careful to not spill their blood, though. She knew she wouldn't be able to resist. She had saved Royce for last, hoping that he would know what was coming for him. Oh, and
Real quick, I was going to say, for if it's not clear, the 5 humans, it was Royce and 4 of his friends
yes.
who did this to her. So she hunted them down one by one,
Mm-hmm.
killed them, and she saved Royce for last.
Yep. And also, she killed 7 guard, or she killed 2 guards, so it's at 7.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Or I forgot about that.
Yep. She said that she was overly theatrical and was childish. Um, I think this is hilarious, though. She wore a wedding dress, and Roy screamed when he saw her.
Hmm?
Karma.
Very karma. Also, I think in the movies, if I remember correct, I want to say when we see that moment, I feel like Rosalie has blood on her hands and mouth. So I feel like they deviated from the story.
I'm sure they did.
But that sucks because that's like a major deviation.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that like she was strong enough to like kill them without spilling blood.
Yeah.
We'll see when we get to the movie. I do remember liking her wedding dress though. I don't know why.
So Rosalie suddenly breaks off and apologizes to Bella for getting too carried away and frightening her. Rosalie admits she hasn't been fair to her. Rosalie was mostly jealous because Edward wanted Bella and not Rosalie. Bella asked about Emmett. Rosalie tells her that she doesn't want Edward in that way and never has. She was so used to people wanting her, though, and Edward wasn't interested. It was frustrating and even offended her at first, but he never wanted anyone, so it started to not bother her. But then he met Bella. It's not that Bella isn't pretty, but he found Bella more attractive than Rosalie, and Rosalie is vain enough that she minded.
I know. I gotta interject real quick. In Midnight Sun, Edward found Bella plain. Like as he was looking at her through like everyone's images on the first, like, oh, there's a new girl here and blah 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 blah. Before that scene where she walks into biology in the fan, but he didn't think she was that attractive. Like he thought that it was overhyped. But
Interesting.
I do vaguely recollect, and I don't. I'd have to double check, but I feel like when Edward's having his whole like meltdown of like, holy shit, like she's my singer and like this is awful and like I actually like love her because Alice is like, you're going to fall in love with her. And Edward's like, the fuck I am. And like that's why he disappeared for days and like Bella didn't see him. But like Edward caught just for like half a second Rose thinking these things. And he was like baffled. And then later when they're having that meadow scene with
Edward.
Edward.
It works.
It works with Bedward, Bella and Edward. It's I think Bella had said something like, "But Rose is so pretty," and like Edward had a thought of like, "Well, yes, like Rosalie is the prettiest woman I've ever seen in my life, but I will never tell Bella that." So I'm like, this is just very interesting having this background and then hearing this conversation.
Yeah.
But again, it all kind of leads up to Edward still sucks.
Edward sucks a lot.
Yes, he do.
That's the theme.
Yeah, but we're liking Rose. I'm actually liking Rose.
I do like Rose. Yeah. So it doesn't really bother Rosalie anymore, but Bella hasn't done anything yet. Rosalie believes Bella has everything already, a whole life ahead of her. That is all Rosalie ever wanted, and Bella wants to just throw it all away. She would trade everything to be Bella. Bella has a choice, and she's making the wrong choice. Bella reminds her that she got her happy ending with Emmett. Rosalie says that she got half. She saved Emmett from a bear that was mauling him and carried him home to Carlisle. There was a reason, though, that she stopped the bear from killing him. Emmett reminded her of Vera's son, Henry.
It was like his black hair or something.
Yeah, like the curly hair or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Emmett's supposed to have curly hair, guys.
Yeah, movie was like, nah, good.
No. She didn't want him to die so much that even though she hated this life, she was selfish enough to ask Carlisle to change him for her. She got lucky, and Emmett is everything that she would have asked for, but there will also never be anything more than just the two of them. They'll never sit on a porch with gray hairs surrounded by their grandchildren. Rosalie tells Bella it must seem strange to her. In some ways, Bella is more mature than she was at 18. But in others, there are a lot of things that Bella never seriously thought about. She's too young to know what she wants in 10 to 15 years from now, and that's such a permanent thing. Bella sighs, and Rosalie tells her to just think on it a little bit because once it's done, that's it. Bella thanks her for telling her story, and it's nice to understand and know her better. Rosalie leaves after saying goodnight. That night, Bella had a nightmare, and the next morning, Alice drove to school. Bella was grumpy, and Alice promised her that they would go out tonight and do something fun. Bella suggests to just lock her in the basement. Alice tells her that Edward will take back the Porsche if she isn't having fun. Bella grumbles and goes to English. After class, Mike was at the door and held it open for her. He asked if Edward was hiking this weekend, and if he was, would she want to do something? Bella grumbles she can't. She has a slumber party. Mike starts to ask who, but gets cut off. Suddenly, there's a noisy black motorcycle, and Jacob is waving to Bella and yelling at her to run. At first, I was like, oh no, what's wrong? Bella realizes what he's doing. She looks at Mike and tells him that she got really sick and went home. Mike mutters, fine. Bella kisses him on the cheek and says she owes him one. Jacob is grinning and Bella hops on and wraps her arms around him. Alice is at the edge of the cafeteria and has fury in her eyes. Jacob tells Bella to hold on and they take off. They made it in the safe zone. Jacob remembered Bella telling him that Alice couldn't see what he was going to do, and he's really glad that Bella hadn't thought of it, or else Alice wouldn't have brought her to school. Quote, he laughed triumphantly. What do you want to do today? Anything, I laughed back. It felt great to be free. End quote, end of chapter 7.
Okay, I like chapter 7.
I like chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
I like getting to know, like, the Cullens' backgrounds. Like, Carlisle's background was awesome. Rosalie, I mean, it wasn't awesome, but it was cool to learn.
It gave her a lot of depth that we didn't get from her in the first 2 books.
Yeah, no, Rosalie was always just the
frigid, awful, like one-dimensional character.
Yeah, and now we have something else.
Mm-hmm. I like her. I do think she is one of my favorite characters in my memory. Just because she's like the most complex and she feels the most real.
Yeah, she actually has real emotions.
Real emotions. And like she's bringing up valid points where Edward is like dismissive of Bella.
Yeah.
When she's saying she wants to be a vampire, Rosalie's not dismissive. She's like, hey, I understand wanting to be with him, but like this is permanent and this is what I think you should think about. But like it's your decision and it's just really permanent. Like Rosalie's respecting Bella. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like Edward's respecting Bella.
No, he's not coming from the same place of care and wanting to, because 18 back in the 30s, you were a full-blown adult, like ready to be married.
28, 29 today.
Yeah. Versus like when these books came out, 18. I mean, what are we thinking at 18? What college are we going to go to? What? I don't know.
Yeah, you're not an adult.
You're
nowhere
not
even close.
No.
Like,
You're not thinking about getting married or having kids.
No, I was opposite of that at that age. I was like, no one tried to force kids on me. No one tried to force marriage on me. Like, I swear to God, I will riot. And now I'm like, okay, now my biggest fear is both getting pregnant and not getting pregnant. So like,
same.
But again, massive difference. Like, never would have thought of this 10 years ago.
No.
So like, again, 18, that's a lot to be making major permanent life decisions.
It is. Yes.
I don't know. Anyway, I had to have a little bit of positive after the train wreck that was the last 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Prior 2 chapters.
Last episode was rough, guys.
It was so bad.
It was real rough.
It was bad.
And if you skipped it, I don't blame you.
Not in the least.
Mm-mm. Let me know below if you did skip it so I can laugh and be like, yeah, I wish I could have skipped that too.
We both do.
Oh.
Well, on that note, anything to add before we hop into 8?
Mm-mm.
Let's go.
All right. Chapter 8 is titled Temper. Bella and Jacob wandered to the beach. Bella doesn't think they'll come for her, but they will definitely be furious tonight. Jacob suggests for her to not go back. Bella sarcastically tells him Charlie would love that, but Jacob bets that Charlie actually wouldn't mind. Bella didn't answer. Jacob was probably right. Bella asks about the latest pack scandal. Jacob was shocked, and Bella tells him that it was supposed to be a joke. But there is something. Jacob forgot that not everyone can just read his mind all the time. And this is where I was going in the last episode.
I know where we are. Yeah.
Quill imprinted. So that's 3 of them now, and the rest of the pack is getting worried that this might be a more common thing. Jacob frowned, then gazed into Bella's eyes without speaking, but he was concentrating. Which just makes
he's trying to will an imprint.
Makes me so sad.
That is so sad. That's such torture. Like, why would you imprint yourself on somebody who doesn't, like, they want you in that way, but not enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bella asks what, and he sighs and says nothing. So she doesn't even get what he's doing.
Shocker, she's dense.
Who knew? Bella thought about how they must. I missed a line, sorry. They started walking again, and Jacob takes her hand. Bella thought about how they must look like they're a couple right now, but tells herself to not get worked up. This is the way things have always been with Jacob. Should we acknowledge that one or just keep going?
Red flag. That's all I'm going to say. Let's just keep going or this is going to be a long
Red
episode.
flag.
Yep.
All right. Bella asks about Quill and what's so scandalous about it. So Quill imprinted on Claire when he met her. Claire is Emily's niece. Jacob stops and tells Bella to not be judgmental and stop guessing because she's just blurting out whatever. So Claire is 2
years old.
When I tell you my jaw dropped to the floor.
Yeah, Jody and I got a text in that group message.
I couldn't even continue. I just sat. I was taking notes, and I'm like, what just happened? What do I do?
I remember reading it the first time and being like, is this a typo? Do they mean 20? They meant 20. They meant 20. And then I kept reading. I'm like,
no, they don't.
They meant 2. They meant toddler.
So it takes Bella a while to find her words.
Yes.
Quill imprinted on a 2-year-old. Jacob just shrugs and says it happens, per the stories at least. Quill isn't getting any older, so he just has to be patient for a few decades. Quote, I was trying my hardest to not be critical, but in truth I was horrified. Until now, nothing about the werewolves had bothered me since the day I found out they weren't committing the murders I'd suspected them of. End quote. Jacob can tell that Bella is judging. She thinks it's creepy. Jacob tells her it's not like that, though. For Quill, there's nothing romantic, at least not now. It's hard to describe, but it's not love at first sight. It's more like gravity moves instead of Earth holding you, she now does. Nothing matters more than her. You'll be whatever she needs you to be, a protector, a lover, a friend, or a brother. He'll be the best big brother for her. She will be well looked after. When she's older and needs a friend, he'll be that for her. And then when she's grown up, they'll be as happy as Emily and Sam.
Yeah, it still sounds like you're grooming a 2-year-old.
Exactly in that way. I'm like, that's grooming. Bella asks if Claire gets a choice. Jacob tells her, of course, but why wouldn't she choose him? He was designed for her. Which is icky. It's just... After a long silence, Bella asks when he thinks it'll happen for him. Okay, before I move on, hold up. So what I was going to say last chapter when I thought I was immediately going to go into Quill, because everything just gets mushed together. You were telling me that Jacob will imprint by the end of the books.
Yes, he will by the end. I can't tell you who, though.
No, but for the love of God, that's ever since I read that and then you just told me that he will imprint by the end of the book, I feel like it's going to be
it's not
a kid.
Toddler.
It's not a toddler. Okay, that makes me feel better. I've been, ever since you said that, I'm like, oh no, dear God, it's going to be a little baby.
It's not a toddler. I promise.
Okay, that makes me feel better. I was like, they're just setting it up so nicely for it to be like, oh, this can happen. Oh, look, it happened to Jacob. And I'm like, if they ruin Jacob in that way, I'm going to be pissed.
Oh, no. Girl, there's so much that's going to happen in the 4th book. It's so much and it's also nothing at the same time. I don't know. It's like a hurry up and wait type of deal. Some major things happen, but then they have to wait. So
Sounds about right. Okay, yeah. So after a long silence, Bella asks when he thinks it'll happen for him. Jacob immediately responded, never. It's not supposed to be something that they can control, but they have to see her, the one that is meant for them. And we're back to the book. And do you think that if you haven't seen her yet, then she's not out there? I asked skeptically. Jacob, you haven't really seen much of the world, less than me even. No, I haven't, he said in a low voice. He looked at my face with suddenly piercing eyes. But I'll never see anyone else, Bella. I only see you. Even when I close my eyes and try to see something else. Ask Quill or Embry, it drives them all crazy. I dropped my eyes to the rocks. We weren't walking anymore. The only sound was of the waves beating against the shore. I couldn't hear the rain over the roar. Maybe I'd better go home, I whispered. No, he protested, surprised by this conclusion. I looked up at him again, and his eyes were anxious now. You have the whole day off, right? The bloodsuckers won't be home yet. I glared at him. No offense intended, he said quickly. Yes, I have the whole day. But Jake, he held up his hands. Sorry, he apologized. I won't be like that anymore. I'll just be Jacob. I sighed. But if that's what you're thinking, don't worry about me, he insisted, smiling with deliberate cheer too brightly. I know what I'm doing. Just tell me if I'm upsetting you. I don't know. Come on, Bella. Let's get back to the house and get our bikes. You've got to ride a motorcycle regularly to keep it in tune. I don't really think I'm allowed. By who? Charlie or the blood or him? Both. Jacob grinned my grin and was suddenly the Jacob I missed the most. Sunny and warm. I couldn't help grinning back. The rain softened, turned to mist. I won't tell anyone, he promises, except every one of your friends. He shook his head soberly and raised his right hand. I promise not to think about it. I laughed. If I get hurt, it was because I tripped. Whatever you say.
yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but I'm going to just sum it up as Bella, it is cruel and unusual punishment that you are inflicting on Jacob by continuing to allow him to be like, oh, I'll just be your Jake, but like, you know about his feelings. No. Red flag on Bella.
Which is why I had to put it as a quote and not summarize that part, because I couldn't non-biasly summarize that.
Yeah. No, it's just that's a sad like I'm all about like keeping friendships if you can, and like it's uncomfortable when one develops feelings, but ultimately as the one who doesn't have feelings, like as much as it sucks, you can be like, or you should be like, I gotta step away then. And like I'd love to resume this friendship when it can be just a friendship.
Yeah. And I just can't say anything about this because otherwise it's going to be a 20-minute rant, and I don't think you guys are going to want that. So,
In summary, Bella, boo.
yeah, I just feel so bad for Jacob.
I do too.
He's like, I love you. And if you'll only have me as a friend, that's fine. Please don't leave. It's so sad.
It is so sad. And again, she's holding his hand and all what we talk about in a previous episode, the elements of a red flag. A situation arises in which Bella has the power to dispel or correct it, and she doesn't. Therefore, red flag. Like, it's still happening.
Yeah. So both of them took off on the motorcycles and rode around La Push for a while. They went back to the Black's house to eat. Bella hadn't been here since before Edward had come back, and she missed it. Jacob took her hand and asks if she remembered last Valentine's Day. Of course she does. She traded a lifetime of servitude for the box of conversation hearts. Jacob laughs and says it feels like a lifetime ago, a happier one. Bella didn't respond, but thought she couldn't agree with him. This was her happy era now, but she was surprised at how much she missed from her dark era. After chatting for a while, Jake finally asked if she was being stubborn just because she was mad at him, or if she was serious when she told him it was none of his business if Edward bit her. After a while, Bella says yes. Jake knew that, then demands if she knows what that means. What would happen if they broke the treaty? Bella quietly tells him that they'll leave first. Quote, "There wasn't a geographic limit to the treaty, Bella. Our great-grandfathers only agreed to keep the peace because the Cullens swore that they were different, that humans weren't in danger from them. They promised they would never kill or change anyone ever again. If they go back on their word, the treaty is meaningless, and they are no different than any other vampire." End quote. Bella cuts him off and asks, didn't he already break the treaty by telling Bella about the vampires? That's true. Jacob did do that before he believed it, and he is sure that the Cullens were informed about it. But
side note, doesn't really matter. He breached the contract first. Just saying. Believed it or not, contract was breached. So, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Jacob says, but this doesn't give them a freebie. When they break the treaty, they have to attack and there will be a war. Bella tells him it doesn't have to be that way, but he says it is that way. Bella whispers if he would never forgive her. No, she wouldn't be Bella anymore, so there's no one to forgive. Bella asks if this is goodbye then. Surprised, Jake says that they still have a few years. They can be friends until they're out of time. Bella tells him weeks are more accurate. Jacob jumps to his feet. His whole body was shaking. The filthy bloodsuckers will be changing her in a few weeks. And Bella tells him that there's nothing to do. Jacob tells her anything else is better than this, even death. He would actually rather her be dead than this. Bella tells him he may get lucky if she gets hit on the way back. Bella grabs her motorcycle and takes off back to the Cullens' house. Alice was stroking the hood of her Porsche when Bella arrived. She hadn't even gotten to drive it yet. Serves you right, Alice.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
She looks at Bella and says it looks like she could use a hot shower. Then does she want to talk? Bella says no, and she agrees to stay there for the night if it's easier on her, because she wanted to go home. That night, Bella curled up on the sofa again. Bella woke when it was still dark. Edward was back. He apologized for waking her. At that moment, she didn't care that she was supposed to be angry with him, or everyone else for that matter. Oh, you're gonna love this, Connie. You're gonna love this.
I know, but
Oh yeah. She reached for him and pulled him close. They kissed. Then Edward started chuckling. Quote, "I was all braced for the wrath that was going to put grizzlies to shame, and this is what I get. I should infuriate you more often. Why can't I say that stupid word? But end quote." Connie's got a lot of colorful words behind that.
Okay. I think I got most of them through. Nope, still one more. This feels like those couples that pick fights because they enjoy the make-up sex afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah. Like I said, you're going to love this. This book might give us aneurysms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Bella tells Edward that she's working up to it. So maybe in the morning.
Working up to it. What type of woman is this? Every woman I know, we do not need to work up to the anger. The anger is there. It is an untapped source that is always there, just behind the curtain. Obviously, the curtain's pulled a little bit back over here, but that's valid. It's a valid response. It's fine.
But for right now, Bella is just glad that he's back. Eventually, Edward asks, what is it about the bed that she doesn't like? Because he thinks it's nice. Bella tells him it's unnecessary. And Edward says, that's debatable. This would be difficult on a couch. He then moved on top of Bella to illustrate the benefits of a bed. Oh, but don't get too carried away. Bella mutters, too late. And she does like the bed, but it's still unnecessary. And if they aren't going to get carried away, then what's the point?
Go Bella, go Bella, go Bella. Also, Edward, go to hell, go to hell, go to hell on the slow train. On the slow train with many stops and people who can't figure out their tickets before you. All of it. And they don't have any sandwiches or anything other than like old, warm egg salad. He's driving me. I cannot be Team Edward in any way, shape, or form after this. I know I said when we were reading Twilight, I'm like, oh, Edward's not that bad later. He's worse. He's worse. He's worse. I blocked this.
He's gotten worse every book.
He's gotten so much worse. I can't.
I know everyone that tells me, if you tell me you're Team Edward,
You don't remember the books.
No, you skipped chapters, which I don't blame you.
I don't blame you.
I probably would have too.
You can be Team Edward if you skip a bunch of chapters.
Yeah.
I can't. I was just talking to Jody, my cousin, the other day, and she's like, Connie, do you remember how bad Edward gets? I'm like, not really. Like, I don't really remember a lot of this book. And she's like, oh, I think you're going to have fun then. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is what you meant, isn't it?
Jody, yeah. I'm scared if this gets worse. So, yeah. Edward tells her, oh, getting carried away is dangerous. But Bella likes danger. Edward sourly says he knows and that she should sleep more. But Bella isn't tired, and she wouldn't mind if he gave her the wrong impression again.
Okay, real quick. Hey, honey, practical matter. Your hubby with the super sense of smell, you are morning breathing him inches from his face. Actually, he's an asshole. Keep going. Keep going. Like, really huff it out there.
So Edward changes the subject and asks if he can apologize for what he did. Him leaving and getting mountain lions was not worth the anxiety. And Alice holding her hostage was a bad idea, and he won't do it again.
No, scheitze. No scheitze, no scheitze. Scheitze's not a swear word. No.
Bella points out that the slumber parties have their advantages, so he can hold her hostage anytime. I was thinking about not putting these in there, but I'm like, no. If I'm subjected to this, so are you.
Nope, we're gonna pass on that one for now because it's gonna make this a very different channel.
Bella then says it's her turn to apologize.
For what?
Edward is confused, just like I was. Bella asks if he is going to take the Porsche back from Alice. Edward, sounding insulted, says, "Of course not. It was a gift." He was aware that, so she's apologizing for going to La
She
Push.
is, but like he doesn't get to be offended. Like, of course it's a gift. Really? All your actions leading up to this tell me that you are wishy-washy, give and take, and or just take, really, strings attached. Okay. We should just have like an on-screen blood pressure monitor.
The only way we could do that is a heart rate monitor, because neither me or you is getting the internal blood pressure thing that sends accurate, unless you want a blood pressure cuff going on every 2 minutes.
Heart rate monitor, heart rate monitor, heart rate monitor.
Yeah.
Hey, heart rate monitor. Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah, maybe one day, if you like and subscribe, maybe one day we can include the heart rate monitors.
Right. Will there be any books that get me this PO'd as Twilight? I hope not. I hope
Hopefully not, actually.
no, we are not subjecting ourselves to the horrors of teen books if we do not have to.
Yeah, no, because I'm thinking about like some of the books that are on the list for the future. I don't think any of them will get even close
To this
to
bad?
this.
Good. Great.
And I mean, if we're
Wonderful.
going dark, I mean, the only dark thing on my list is the Dark Olympus series.
Oh yeah.
And that is so good. And I'm so upset. I need someone to talk to about this.
We're almost there. Well, not really, but like we're getting there.
We're getting
We just
there.
got to get through this dumpster fire first.
Yeah. And then we'll decide which on our list goes next.
A good one. We deserve a good one after this.
I know, but I'm debating between a couple good ones. I'm going back and forth.
Valid.
So we'll talk about it when we get close to the end of this.
Yeah. Oh, we can even put it up for a poll.
Oh, we can. Yes.
Narrow down the options and then we let people choose. And if they choose wrong, well, this ain't a democracy and we override you.
Oh. All right. So Edward is aware that Bella went to La Push and ditched school, but he wouldn't press Bella. When he was away, he decided that Bella was right and he was prejudiced against the werewolves, and he would try to be more reasonable and will trust her judgment. If she says it's safe, then he will believe her, and more importantly, he is not willing to let this tear them apart. When's the shoe gonna drop?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that is really reasonable and completely opposite. Wow, do I just really not remember most of Eclipse? I think I truly don't remember most of Eclipse.
Connie, I don't think you remembered 95% of this book.
I honestly think I remember Twilight and Midnight Sun, and that's about it. And then, like, the major plot points.
Yeah. We deserve a great book after
We
this.
deserve a phenomenal book.
I know.
The
Which
best
is why I'm
book.
debating. All right. After a pause, Edward asks if she's made plans to go back soon. Bella didn't answer, and Edward misread the silence and quickly explains that he wants to know so he can make plans and so she wouldn't feel rushed to get back to him. Which is great and all, but like, what are you up to, Edward? I'm so skeptical about this. I'm like, there's got to be something that he's planning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, glad it's not just me.
I'm not remembering, but like, yeah, it's.
But you feel it though, right?
I know that something is coming before like the major plot thing, but I don't remember what.
So Bella tells him that she doesn't think she's welcome there anymore. She thought Jacob would have realized what was going on, but he wasn't expecting her turning into a vampire to happen so soon, and he would rather see her dead. Edward holds her close and tells her he is so sorry.
No, he's not.
Bella thought he would be glad. Quote, glad over something that's hurt you, he muttered into my hair. I don't think so, Bella. End quote.
If I heard someone say that to me after knowing how they felt about things, I'd be like, aw, you're manipulating me, aren't you?
Yeah.
I don't like you now.
This is just so, like, icky.
Yeah.
It's so icky. And, like, yeah, you can say he's being great now. Cool, cool, cool. But, like, This is a manipulation tactic.
100%. And even if you're like, no, it's not, now he's being genuine, I'm like, how do you know?
You don't.
He's going to take it back. I think he does. I don't remember, to be honest with you. Like, he's shown that he can be slimy, icky, maneuvery. No.
Edward tells Bella after coaxing that he wants to kill Jacob for saying that to her.
Yeah, that's the reason he wants to kill Jacob.
I'm sure. Bella tells him it's a good thing. He has so much self-control. Quote, I could slip. His tone was thoughtful. If you're going to have a lapse in control, I can think of a better place for it. I reached for his face, trying to pull myself up to kiss him. His arms held me tighter, restraining. He sighs, must I always be the responsible one? I grinned in the darkness. Oh, I gotta not laugh. No, let me be in charge of responsibility for a few minutes or hours. Good night, Bella, end quote.
No. And you know what's worse? They're in the house with the Cullens, so the Cullens all heard that.
That makes it so much more funny.
Oh, dear God. Ew. I think you're giving him too much credit. Ew.
I forgot I put that in there. I thought I skipped it. You're welcome, everybody.
Stephanie, you owe reparations to the people that have read this book and been emotionally disturbed. I'm disturbed here. What the? Ew. And the...
You're welcome, Connie.
Literally all of them could have heard that. Would have heard that. That'd be like you and I having this level of conversation and someone sitting like right here hearing it clearly. Ew. Okay. I hate this series. Okay, let's just roll. Let's get her done.
Okay. Bella then tells him that she had a conversation with Rosalie. Edward had heard Rosalie thinking about it when he got back home. Edward seemed anxious, and Bella thought there might be more to it, so she asked about his time with his family in Denali. There were a bunch of female vampires and him. Sorry. Rosalie said that there was no preference, but Bella was wondering if any of them showed preference in him. Edward didn't respond, and Bella asked which one, or was it multiple? Edward still didn't say anything. Bella brushed it off and said Alice will tell her. Edward tightens his grip on Bella and tells her that it's late and Alice had already stepped out. Now, this must be really bad if he won't tell her. That's what Bella's thinking. Edward tells her to calm down. There's nothing to tell, and she's blowing things way out of proportion. Bella again asks which one. He sighs and says Tanya showed a little interest, and he very politely told her he didn't return that interest, and that was it.
Oh, that's a downplay, because you get to hear about when he was visiting the Denali family after he had the whole, like, in Midnight Sun.
Oh.
Where after he had the whole, like, no, I'm not going to fall in love with that plain human, and, like, left, he went up to Alaska and was with the Denali family, and, like, he had a conversation with the one who was interested.
Oh.
And, like, he was like, oh, like, no, I'm not really interested, but then, like, he read her mind, and it was like, oh, no, she's, like, interested in me.
Oh.
Which is interesting because they don't have like a mate connection like the werewolves do.
Oh.
Where like it's not like a biological thing where it's like they choose their mates.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's weird, being that the werewolves have something, you would assume that the vampires would too.
You would think, and it's just kind of funny because I think you've probably learned about it. Laurent mentions it a little, but like in background references, we find out more. Victoria considered James her mate, but James was like, It's not that serious.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, apparently her whole thing, I just saw a little video, is like her gift is to know when people are tracking her, like with malicious intent, because she grew up in brothels and other things, or like she started as a chambermaid, and because she was pretty, but like she wasn't nice, like she would be sought out and beat, so she became really good at hiding.
Mm.
And her background is actually pretty interesting. That would have made a better story than Twilight. Like her sister goes missing because her and her sister escape the household because their mom was a maid and their dad was the master of the house, illegitimate children,
Mm.
and he was beating them repeatedly. And then they escaped, and then they got hired somewhere else, and like the same thing was happening, except for now like guys were trying to get to them, and so then they started working at a brothel, and like you can guess what happened. And then her sister vanished, and then Victoria was doing something, like she started getting beaten or attacked, and her sister came back and like killed them, and her sister was a vampire, and like
Okay.
brought her in. They got her changed. They ended up getting somehow involved with the Volturi, which Victoria ran because she could tell like they were bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then James was apparently hired to track her because he's such a good tracker. And so
Oh.
while he had malicious intent towards her, he could never track her. But then, like, once he started getting more interested in her because she was interesting prey, but Victoria took it as like, he's interested in me as a mate. So then it got easier for him to find her, and that's how they ended up connected.
Interesting.
So Victoria thought it was love. James thought it was, this is a fun chase.
Yikes.
Sorry, I learned all that recently, and like I wanted to send you that reel, but it had a bunch of other spoilers in it, so I'm like, oh, I'll wait. I'll wait. But I didn't know that until recently.
No, that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Victoria actually did kind of a sad background.
That is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chose a bad guy. Bad stuff happens.
Unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
how it works.
Anyway, even if that part gets cut into a short, that's fine. We'll keep going.
Bella asks about how she looked. She must have been beautiful. She was blonde and had golden eyes. He supposes that she was to human eyes. Oh,
No, you're saying that right.
yeah.
Like, oh,
It
she's
just-
beautiful by human standards.
Yeah, by human standards, she's beautiful. I remember writing that and being like, what way can I write this that will make sense to me later? It still tripped me up, so
No, it's just a weird way to say it.
yeah. But don't worry, Edward prefers brunettes. Bella decides that's okay then. Edward reminds her again that it's late. Quote, "Sleep, my Bella, dream happy dreams. You are the only one who has ever touched my heart. It will always be yours. Sleep, my only love." He started to hum my lullaby, and I knew it was only a matter of time till I succumbed, so I closed my eyes and snuggled a little closer into his chest. End quote, end of chapter 8. I traumatized Connie this episode, guys.
You know, I have learned that I don't like those overly cheesy. I had an ex where that was a lot of like how he would talk to me, and I'd have to respond back to it, and I'd always be like, this feels like a lot of work, and I feel like kind of a brat because I'm not super, super genuine about this, at least to the amount that he is, and like I feel awful for that, but you and I were raised in similar ways. The flowery
Anyway.
expressions of love like that, that's not...
Non-existent.
No, I think most of us would prefer to take like a red hot poker to the arm.
Not in like this matter. Like that stuff makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's a reason my husband and I didn't do vows at our wedding. We did it before.
Yeah.
Which apparently one or two people are like, well, what was the point of having the ceremony then? Because like the point is to have your vows in front of people. And I'm like,
It's not. It's not. You make your weddings however you want them.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
some people don't want to share their true feelings and their vows in front of people.
They're very intimate vows.
They're very intimate, and some people just want them to be private, and then the ones that are in public are the typical, like,
Yeah.
do you promise to blah, 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 blah.
And I think we had that. I think we
I
had
think
very
you guys
basic-
did, yeah.
And we did that. But then, like, my officiant that married me, she and her husband just got married a couple months ago, and beautiful, but they're both writers at heart, and they had very intimate, very sweet vows. And I was like, wow. And afterwards, my husband and I turned to each other, and we both went, that was beautiful. Thank God we didn't do that.
I can't even imagine just standing in front of that many people, which is why I didn't.
Girl,
Gosh.
it's intense.
Yeah.
But the point of all that was us bashing on all of that. And I don't know, these chapters are better than the last, but not by much, because the cringe factor is worse here.
Yeah. Every time Edward comes back, it just gets worse and worse.
It gets worse. It really has been. Every time I'm like, can it get worse? Oh, it can. It can.
Whew. Yeah.
Well, the good news is, at least for us, we now get to move on to the recording of our Who Knows What Wednesday episodes, which are murder-based, and I can stomach better than this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are going to be doing that. So, any final thoughts real quick? No? Cool.
Yeah, I think I've said them all.
All right.
What about you?
No, I'm ready to be done.
Valid.
Make sure that you're following us on all of our social medias. They'll be linked below. We will see you either next week for chapters 9 and 10, or for Wednesday for Who Knows What Wednesday, probably Murder Edition.
Usually murder.
Usually. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Bye.
God, it's just awful. All right, murder time. Woo!